Welcome to Retro Upgrade. This time we'll be taking a look at this. This is a clone Nintendo system. This is not a real one, obviously. This is my plumber's. He come over to fix the sink, and then he noticed my collection and he asked if I could fix these. Okay, so let's take a look. I'll be doing a voiceover over the entire thing because I misplaced the audio. Okay, so this has some nice features. It looks kind of crappy. It doesn't really look like a real Nintendo, but it does take real cartridges, and it has the shell is similar enough. The eject button is quite nice. So these consoles are really common. The controllers that come with them have the same connector as the NES, but they are kind of crappy. So what the plumber said, he heard a loud noise, a zap or a bang, and then it stopped working when his kids were playing. So let's take a look to see what could have gone wrong. My guess is the voltage regulator exploded. And I can also see he has one of these El Cheapo multi bricks that you can change the voltage on. They probably put it to 12 volts or something and burned it out. Looks like it has some chocolate underneath. I hope it's chocolate because I'm not wearing gloves. It's brown and sticky. Okay. It looks decent enough. Here's the connector. The buttons are really squishy, not nice to click at all, but if someone else enjoys it, I'm happy for them. So I told him I could take a look at it and charge him for the parts only, because I didn't want to overdo it. It seems to be set to 9 volts, and the connector is at center negative. That's what the original Nintendo actually at least has. I'm not really sure if this one does though. This should have a LM7805 inside. Still not sure at this point. I'm recording the audio after the fact, so I actually know it has a 7805. So, spoiler. Okay, so let's go through this. I'll be jumping over a few steps here and there, but that's just to make the video faster. Time for disassembly. Okay, so normal Phillips screwdriver. There are only 4 screws. I marked them on the screen. I just speed up the video right here. I'll put on some nice background music during the video, so it's not too boring. So why would you like to fix something like this? It's actually quite common to use these to play original games, because they do have, some of these do have RGB out, and the original Nintendo does not. So the screw under the controller ports is not necessary to remove, just like the Nintendo. So that's good to know. Okay, so let's remove the lid. It has a nice mechanical release button with 2 levers. It's quite over-engineered for what it needs to do, but hey, as long as it works, and it actually feels quite nice. Instead of ripping the cartridge out with your fingers, you can use this release button, and that looks nice. Okay, so let's take a visual inspection. Okay, so the RF module and the power module are on the same board. That's a daughter board on the side. So my guess is that's LM7805 right there. Always mark connectors that you can put in upside down or backwards. So I put the X on the top. Removing the screws. I'm just going to remove the daughter board first and see if it produces the 5 volts that it should. So there we go, it's loose. I'll obviously go through the PCB main board if needed, but first power, because it doesn't even power on when you plug it in. Quick visual inspection of the caps. They look decent, they are not bulging, I don't see any crud underneath, so they should be fine. I don't like that they didn't put color-coded connectors on for the audio and video, so you can mix them up. But there is silk screen on the, or printing on the actual, what's it called, the lid or the housing. So that's fine actually. Let's see. So I'm trying to zoom in here. So, yeah, so you can see there 7805. It went by pretty quickly, but I can assure it is a 7805. Okay, so first of all, we need to check everything associated to the 7805. So it gets voltage there first, and now I need to also make sure it's center negative, like it was set on the power supply. Because the clones do not need to be exactly the same as the Nintendo, obviously. Center negative is quite rare on other electronics. So let's see. Let's put this upside down. So I'm just checking for shorts on the 7805 here. So that shouldn't be shorted. That's the input on the, I think, the right side, and the left side is the output. Yeah, and there should be ground in the middle, so no short. I touched the probes together, so there's no short on the rail at least, or the 7805, so that's good. That means there was not a lot of current going through this when it went bang, because it went open instead of short. I'm going through and measuring the capacitors from ground side to positive side, see if they're shorted. I don't actually think there is a shorted line on this one. You can see it ramps up. That's normal when you're using a multimeter. It charges the cap and then it shows the measurement afterwards. I'm using beep mode right now, so don't worry about the numbers that show up. Okay, so next up, checking the polarity. So it says DC 9 volts, so that's exactly as the Nintendo. And this is set to 9 volts, I think. And the outside pins, the two, the one at the front and the one on the side, are the side pins, and the one in the middle on the back is the ground pin, and or the center pin. So that should be ground. So the middle of the 7805 is ground, so I can measure from the middle to up there, but I can actually see the trace is connected there. It's quite, it's an old PCB, so the traces are quite visible. Now, a word from my sponsor, PCB Way. Make sure to check out their shared projects section. There are really cool and interesting stuff there. We'll also be ordering some things and trying on the channel. Try them out at PCBway.com for $5. Okay, let's get back to the video. Okay, so let's test out the plugs that came with this, or the power supply. I can't actually read anything, but I made a mistake here. Can you spot it? It's visible on camera. So what I did here, I have it in beep mode, but I didn't notice until now. As you can see, it beeps. And yeah, that's a thing that happens a lot. It should not beep on the positive and negative, obviously, so something is wrong. But yeah, could be that connector is shorted, but then nothing else should work. So let's try the voltage. I can never remember which one is positive, which one is negative on these. And I do have it, but oh, look at that. It shows 12 volts. So that means the display on the actual power brick is incorrect. It's showing 9 volts selected. Now I put it on the 7.5 volts and it shows 9 volts. So the slider seems to be offset from the actual measurement. So that sucks a bit. This could actually be why it blew up in the first place, because they put it to 9 volts, let's say, and it was actually 12. The 7805 should survive 12 volts, but it gets really hot really fast, because all the extra energy has to go somewhere, and it usually dumps it as heat. Okay, so let's try out the plug, because it is producing the voltage it needs to. It's not shorted, or it shouldn't be shorted, because if it's shorted, the voltage disappears. So I plugged it in directly to the board. Maybe not the smartest thing to do, because I didn't check the plug again after I tested it in continuity mode. But hey, what can you do? Hindsight. Okay, so thing you want to check out for here, check the voltage on the plug. So that's usually what you want. So the center pin on a 7805 is always ground, so there should be 9 volts right there, but there isn't. So I'm a little confused. Why doesn't it have power? Because the other lead did have power. So let's put in the negative in the middle, just like it, so I get the positive voltage shown on the multimeter. And nothing. So that plug seems to be dead. These fail quite easily. I've had a few to fail in the past, so I really don't like these multi-connector thingies. And the other one works. So the problem is that the connector that I actually need doesn't work. So he needs either to solder on a new lead on one of the connectors and remove one of the unnecessary ones that are wired, like the mini super thin thingy on the side, because the thin connector that actually works doesn't fit the Nintendo. I was pretty sure it wouldn't, so. But that actually gives me a clue on what's wrong here, so that's fine. So that's dead. It should be thrown out. Okay. Next, I'll be using my mini power supply I built a case for a while back. I'll be using a laptop power in 19 volts 80 watt one. This little guy can output 36 volts at 5 amps, or yeah, up until 80 watts. That's the limit on this thing. And it's quite handy to have, because I use alligator clips. There's the power supply I use. It's an old HP PSU, so it works well so far, so I'm happy with the results. This makes it really handy, because you can set the voltage and set the maximum current, so you don't burn something to the ground. And obviously it shows the consumption. So if it doesn't consume anything, for example, you can actually see it's broken. The screen is nice and bright. Okay, so you set these up by clicking the button, then choosing what you want to change, and then clicking until you get to the decimal point you want to change. Now changing to 9 volts, for example, and then clicking again. It won't go live until you press the power button. And the leads I'm using are crocodile clips. Usually you can use multimeter plugs as well, because I'm using banana plugs. I can choose whatever I like to use. So the outside should be positive, and the rail inside, or the ground, I can clip wherever there is ground. So one of the connectors, one of the jacks on the outside. Usually it's ground, so that should be fine. So let's go and try to clip this on. There's nothing on the other side of the board right there, so I'm clipping it on the side. And yeah, I can't really get a hold of anything on the bottom side that's grounded. I should have gone for the heatsink, because it's also grounded. But yeah, I went for one of the connector shieldings instead. That made the angle a little awkward, I guess. But it's better to work comfortably than to record comfortably, let's say. So I prefer to work comfortably instead of actually recording a little more clear video. I just explain what I do instead. Okay, so power on. And there is nothing happening. No voltage draw, no nothing. Or no amperage draw, sorry. And I try to feel if the 7805 is getting hot, but there's no reaction at all from that, so that sucks. I'm pretty amazed it actually shows the display at that angle. It's at a 60-degree angle, so that it's clear enough to read is amazing actually. So I'm just checking to see if I can get a reading here, if I can get voltage somewhere. So I'm not getting anything there. Just unsure if I'm getting a good ground connection, because this moves around quite a bit. Yeah, so I'm going to put the multimeter in shot so you can see what I'm doing. A professional YouTuber right here. Okay, so the power is getting to the connector at least. So that's good. That's what I want. So let's click on let's choose one of the ground points and use the connector here. And I get 9 volts on one side of it, so on the LM7805. So I should get 5 volts on the other side, but just getting 0 volts. So that means it's that the output is not doing anything. So the 5 volt rail is missing. So this won't turn on. And this can happen when you put in too much voltage, or it overheats and dies, or crappy quality, they also die. So 9 volts there, and the output is 0 volts. So this needs to be swapped out. Not at all hard. So let's use my El Cheapo solder sucker. A lot of people don't like these, but they do work. They need some help with the bigger components, for example. Right here I just speed up the video so you can see. I'm using some flux to make it flow a little better. I didn't put on fresh new solder. I should have done that, it's a lot easier then. But it made quick work. Just pulled it out afterwards. It worked quite well. So I should have desoldered the actual heatsink as well. I was unsure if I was going to use a normal LM7805 or one of the replacement ones that are switch mode power supplies. I ended up opting for the switch mode ones because, yeah, I have some lying around. Detlef donated to me. Thank you, Detlef. And I bought some new ones, so I'm going to be reimbursing him, obviously. So for the thick heatsink, you need a little more help. This thing cannot produce enough heat, and the actual hole on the tip is too small to fit in the entire thing. So what you do is put on a lot of flux. You should put on some fresh solder. I did not do that at this moment. Actually, I didn't do it at all. So you need to put in heat. I removed most of the solder, but there was a few stubborn places. So I went around it and put it on an angle so I could suck up as much as possible. And it actually looked like it was going to work until it just stopped melting, pretty much. So yeah. Then I decided to go the double route, heat up with the hot air, and then try with the solder socket to remove the last little bit of solder. It is actually loose there. You can't see it, but it is loose. So I'm heating up the entire heatsink on the bottom side first, and then it fell out. So pretty good. I'm surprised that the solder sucker actually removed 90% of the solder. Of course, if you don't have hot air, you can use a normal soldering iron to help it heat it up. But yeah, of course, it's not as good as a station, obviously. And it's out. I usually keep these because some consoles use them to cool down. Okay, so let's see. I just have to be careful. So I put in the LM7805 replacement underneath. I keep them flat with the finger for the first one when I tack them on, with some preloaded solder on the tip. This is usually the best way to do it. Obviously, if you preload the tip, you burn away the flux, so put some flux directly on the board. That's recommended. You can see it bubbled up a little bit with the hot air when I removed the heatsink. Not really devastating or anything, but could actually prevent that by being more careful. I put it too close, pretty much. There we go. And then the first one is the hard one, because you need to keep it flat and you can burn yourself. Then the other ones you can just do the normal, touch pad and pin, and then heat it up, and then use some flux, obviously. Okay, it's time for testing. So I was pretty sure this would work, so I tested it directly in the Nintendo here, or the Nintendo Clone. So just I even connected a plug for it from my power supply instead of the clips. I just used one of these generic plug packs from my multi-power supplies. So this is drawing about 50 milliamps at start, or before start. So it's drawing something, and then when you plug it in, it's drawing a little more power. So it went up, the power usage, to 250 to 300 milliamp hours, or milliamps, sorry. And that's indicative of actually working, because the voltage went up. Sorry for the shaky camera. I actually have a capture card now that is capable of capturing this, so next video you will not need this. Anyway, I'm recording the screen and turning it on without any games inside, just to make sure I get the display or a blinking light or whatever. But actually, it seems to have something is built in. It has 800 games built in, and I went through the list a little quickly, and it actually has some really nice games. So there are a few games that crash on start, but that could might as well be a glitch or so, because they started working perfectly after a while. So maybe one of the chips has dry solder joint or something. But that just happened once when I started Mega Man, or in Japanese Rockman. So the game starts, you press start, and then it just loses sync on the TV, but the music keeps going. So it is working. The problem is the sync was actually a problem of the wiring that came with it. It was super rusty and probably too much resistance, screwed over the, as you can see here, it's not syncing correctly. So it was a matter of just cleaning off the connectors, and it started working correctly again. So that's a good thing, because I was worried there was a problem with one of the chips. You can see it glitching away here. Sorry for the vomit-inducing shaking. It's on a tripod, and I can't do anything about the shaking. I bumped it. Okay, so I'm going for Arcanide. I'm fiddling with the cables again. I recorded this a while back, but I haven't had time to edit this video, so here we go. Okay, so yeah, Arkanoid, one of my favorite games. I played this on the Commodore 64 until I was blue in the face. Really fun game. On the Nintendo, the music is also really good. I'll speed through. It works. No glitches, no nothing. And I'm quite happy. So my plumber was really happy with the fix. His kids are really happy when they visit him. And I charged them, I think, 10 euros for the part and the labor. So I didn't do much. So the part cost more than the time it took. So I just sped it up here. Okay, time to test out our original cartridge. This is Blaster Master, one of my favorite games. I have a lot of cartridges, but they are in storage, so I use this quite a lot to test. It does work. It did crash once, but I cleaned the connectors off and it worked fine. Okay, thank you for watching until the end. Help me out, guys. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. Give the subscribe button a click. And see you on the next one. Bye.